final panel of the day then broadens the lens to explore the energy systems and financial models that make large-scale fleet transition possible. So please join me in welcoming to the stage our panel expert speakers: Anne Buckingham from Amplify, John Granby, Arnett Energy, there we go, and Ashley Barnett from Lloyds Banking Group and Lex Auto Lease. And unfortunately, we don't have Matt Farrell from Farrell's Group here with us today. He has the best reason ever not to be here in the form of a newborn baby at home. So very, very understandable, and we wish him well. So I'd just like to ask you, first of all, to introduce yourselves. Anne?
My name's Anne Buckingham. I'm the co-founder and chief commercial officer for Amplify EV. We deliver a turnkey infrastructure solution from commercial and technical feasibility through hardware, through grid connection, cable sizing, design, installation, and then really importantly, keeping the infrastructure working through service.
Thanks, Anne. John?
Hi, I'm John Granby. I'm Chief Commercial Officer for Arnett Energy. We provide fully funded electrical infrastructure at no cost up front to the end user by funding it through cheaper electricity. Our electricity is the cheapest in the UK, and we fund all of their infrastructure through that electricity. That's it.
Brilliant. Thank you, John. Ashley?
He definitely kept that a lot quicker than we did last week when we had the call. So I'm Ashley Barnett. I work for the transport team at Lloyds Bank, so responsible for about 1.2 million cars, commercial vehicles, of which 250,000 are electric, which comes with a completely different headache financially at the moment. And I suppose my role in the business is around how do we decarbonise that. So we've got a plan to decarbonise by 48% by 2030, which, to the point that was made earlier by Lorna, when we set that in 2018, that seems really simple. 2030 is not far away, as my boss keeps reminding me.
Thank you so much, Ashley. Thank you, everybody. And I think two P words stand out for me so far today. One is partnership, and the other one is planning. And we heard planning a lot, many times from you, Lorna. So my first question then for you, Anne, is how do we better connect fleet needs and energy and infrastructure planning?
I think the fact that we're all here today has demonstrated the easiest and the best way to do that. I think it is joining the discussion. I think it's listening to people like Lorna and her fleet experience. And I think it's watching events like this where you have companies like Amplify whose peers are also in the room. We heard from MVivo this morning. We heard from Drax. We have vehicle OEMs in the room. We have innovative energy solutions people in the room. So how do we put all of those things together to support what you do next? There's a lot of discussion so far of get planning and get collaborating. How do you know where to start? And that's what I'm hoping that we start to demonstrate today, because actually peers and competitors are friends in the workspace over the last decade or so. And each business has their experts, and we're all here ready, willing, and able to help. And you're not expected to connect with every single part of that supply chain. We heard from John Jessen earlier from DAF. He has partners and partnerships that do the delivery piece for a project. So I guess it's a long way round of answering the question, but reach out. This isn't the nascent sector that it was 10 years ago. This is a sector with people like Lorna that have gone through the pain points. And I've been in the sector the same time. I think I was there almost day one listening to some of the challenges that you had. And so we've learned, and we've seen businesses go from an innovative startups that you may be concerned whether their product is something very niche. There's not. There's partnerships. There's funding partnerships, energy and financing partnerships, grid partnerships. So for me, it's about joining these events, connecting, following the relevant businesses and the others that have delivered these projects, learning and reaching out, because it's our job not to sell you something, but to help walk you through this to get you to the point that you feel that you can get started.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Anne. So essentially, for any sort of fleet operators out there, no matter what stage of the journey, from the very, very earliest stage, they need not be alone in this. There is always somebody to reach out to talk to, and to support them on that journey, just getting started.
And it isn't, it's not something you're going to have to pay for. I watch all of my commercial friends go, I mean, ultimately you are going to buy this infrastructure, or you're going to work with somebody that funds it for you. But first you need to know what it is. And we've got established businesses that will invest the time without cost for you to explain what that might look like. You know, for my part, you're looking at your fleet lease. You know how long that lasts for. You know what vehicles you have and the timeline you have for the lease renewals. So start engaging so we can tell you what your capacity is, tell you what the gap is, help you get your head around what the costs are if you do option A, B or C. So reach out. The small costs when you first start are small costs. At the point you want to put in an application to your DNO to find out what capacity your site's got, it costs you $1,500 to $2,000 to find out that piece of the plan, but there's a lot of work to be done before that. So, yeah.
Thank you, Anne. And John, coming to you then, so let's sort of switch a little bit to the technology side of things. And how can fleets make better use of smart charging and flexibility services?
Okay, so most commercial premises in the UK are, in terms of electric vehicle charging, grossly underpowered. So the average is about 100 kVA grid supply going into them. What we're able to do is give people between 8 and 10 times whatever their grid supply is for free. They don't have to have a grid upgrade all the time. Sometimes if they've got no grid supply, they're going to have a grid upgrade, but by and large, they don't have to have as big a grid upgrade as they wanted or they thought they needed. I'll give you an example. Gold Star Heathrow are moving premises on Heathrow to another site which needs a new grid supply. They've been quoted by their DNO, 4 megawatts will cost them 6 million and take 3 years. That's a long time and a lot of money. What we're doing is we've taken over the whole thing. We've looked at the existing supply in the surrounding area. We've got them a new substation for £80,000, which has got 231 kVA. We've boosted that to just over 2 megawatts, which enables them to charge their 10 trucks. We've done Gullwing solar, 3 huge solar installations. The total cost is 1.2 million. They're funding that. And the reason they're funding, we could have funded it. So if we'd funded it, their electricity bill would be 25 pence a kilowatt hour, for example. Don't quote me on that. Because they're funding it, it's 10 pence a kilowatt hour. So our customers can pick 2 routes. They can have the grid upgrade. That will save them money on their non-commodity charges, standing charges forever. Because even if they need another grid upgrade in future, it won't be as big as the one they thought they needed. So if a DNO comes in and says, you need a megawatt, actually you don't, you just need 256 kVA, that's it, we'll do the rest. So that'll save them money on installation, it'll save them money long term on their commodity charges. We save on average between 40 and 60% on their non-commodity charges per annum, and on their electricity bills, even if we're paying for it, we'll save them on average about 20%. Some people are buying electricity very cheaply at about 17, 18 pence. Some are buying it at 15 pence. We're a lot cheaper than that. And we still have the ability to include funding if they want us to, or not if they don't.
Okay, thank you, John. That's really interesting, and a really interesting case study there as well. Anne, Ashley, finance, of course, is an absolutely huge consideration in the transition. And what are the key financial barriers to infrastructure and fleet transition that you're seeing?
I think John's made reference to it. You know, typically people just look at the upfront cost of things. You know, if you think back to vehicles, a lot was made, and I think there's a couple of discussions this morning about the price of, you know, the trucks that are available, then also the grants that go with it. One of the things that I've seen a lot, probably over the last 12 months or so, is people reevaluating, I'm going to say, how they buy things. So if you think of the leasing industry, a lot of that typically would be contract hire. So essentially, you're leasing the asset at the end, you just throw the thing back. What we're finding now is people are reevaluating that and thinking, actually, are there other finance models that I need to use? But likewise, the key part of it is why. I always refer to myself and my team as a bunch of petulant 2-year-olds, because their first question when they go to any organisation, a bit bizarre this, by the way, for a company that leases assets to people, is, well, why are you bothering? Because if you don't understand why you're doing that, and I'm sure Lorna's done this many times, why do you need the lumps of metal that you need? What are they doing? What's the purpose of it? Well, how are you financing that? Well, why are you financing it like that? And you often find people haven't asked themselves that question for a while. And then you get into some of those broader conversations of, well, especially in the current environment, there's been a lot made over the last probably 2 years around the losses that lease companies have made on electric vehicles as the market has, you know, changed quite dynamically. And that will continue to change. So again, what's the company's appetite to risk and reward? And probably ties into your piece, John. You know, do I want to spend the money, or do I want to use someone else's money and almost gamble at the roulette wheel? And so again, bringing that to the table, is you're seeing a lot of that come in now, especially when it comes to the commercial vehicle transition.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ashley. And Anne, we've talked a lot today as well about the importance of stakeholders, and also the huge variety of stakeholders who are involved in planning projects, strategies around commercial vehicle decarbonisation. So where are the biggest disconnects today between stakeholders, and what do you think the answer is there?
I don't think there's a single answer because of the scope and scale and the differences in project types. I think we've moved on from, it's a little bit similar to what we talked about earlier, we've moved on from volatility in the market. Are we going to transition? Are we not? Different types of technology. I think it's matured. So early days, a procurement route tended to be find a large and trusted brand that has demonstrable experience of delivering something else, and trust them to aggregate all of the services that you need to deliver out on EV infrastructure. I don't think we need that now. I think from a commerciality perspective, it adds margin where people are aggregating all of the different services, and I think we have experts in place that are able to address it. So I think it's, I think rather than going to a single entity and handing over a project for them, and having focused on, as Lorna was saying, having to go through those stages to understand your own operations, to design against them. I think you've got case studies and experience that's not quite off the shelf, but it's accessible and it's available, so we can go there first. And you've got fair groups of specialists that you can go to. So I think it's about communicating. It's about doing a bit of research, but go to trusted research, go to people that have done it before. Go to organisations that organise events and workshops like this that can guide you to groups of specialists, and join the discussion early.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Anne. And I should give a shout out, of course, to the ZEMO Stakeholder Working Group, because that's one of the reasons that exists as well, to bring those stakeholders together. John, as a fleet operator, can you walk us through the practical steps that fleets should take now to optimise their energy strategy?
Yes, I used to own my own logistics company, sold out a long time ago now, hence the grey hair. And we had an event yesterday in Derby where we launched a lot of new sites for Mer trucks. And the overwhelming message coming from that is you need to act now. So where we're saying to the likes of Gold Star Heathrow, you don't need to pay for that £6 million grid upgrade, because in the surrounding properties, we can find you 231 kVA, which is going spare. We can do that now. In 5 years' time, we might not be able to, because all of that spare capacity will have been dug up, and then whoever is late to the market will have to pay the 6 million, because they're going to have a 5-mile trench dug to put in a 4 megawatt upgrade. So the quicker you act, even if it's only in a small way, the better. So I would talk to as many, this is another thing that came out of yesterday, talk to as many experts from as many different organisations as you can to familiarise yourself. It's a big change to go from diesel, which we've had for over 100 years, to electric or whatever other method of propulsion you go into. Speak to as many stakeholders as you can, get as much information as you can, and then make a more informed decision, but do it quickly.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, John. And then, Ashley, on financing models, how are financing models evolving to support zero-emission fleets? What's new?
How long have we got left? I think it goes back to that risk and reward piece, and it's probably the last 12, even the last few days, you've seen a lot, and it's been mentioned this morning about the, are we going to change the zero-emission vehicle mandate? You know, what should we do, what shouldn't we do? Which not only keeps me up at night, keeps my boss up at night, but again, I think it's that what's your appetite around risk and reward? Because that, I think, will form a key part of what you then do. You know, we're reevaluating as a business. I was chatting at lunch to somebody outside that, you know, if you think typically in the financing industry, people will finance lumps of metal for a period of time. For a car, it would have been 3 or 4 years. For a light commercial vehicle, probably 4 to 5 years. And then for, you know, as you get bigger and heavier, you go for a longer period. We're seeing that dynamic shift, especially with cars and commercials, where it's like, well, hang on a minute. If as a business, we're financing that asset over 4 years and then throwing it to a market that doesn't necessarily have the appetite for it, and we're then hemorrhaging cash, why would you carry on doing that? It's almost like fueling a gambling addiction or a drug addiction. You kind of go, well, actually, let's just change that dynamic. Let's just keep hold of it for a bit longer and figure out, well, there must be a second user for it because it's going out into the market. So how do we maintain that? So changing that, I suppose, life cycle of an asset is changing. And I think, you know, that we're definitely seeing that with cars, light commercials. I think you'll start to see that with heavies as well. And it goes back to that challenging yourself, why? And I think to your point, John, about that, you know, delaying the transition. The reality is, especially, you know, in certain parts of this sector, the transition is already happening and you're seeing new entrants come in and change that dynamic. So I think that piece around, well, hang on a minute, if I don't join this now, when I do join, are we going to lose some of the grants that are out there in terms of the vehicle, the infrastructure? Are some of these opportunities in terms of energy going to disappear? So yeah, I think we're seeing it across the piece, but finance is a key part of that. That goes back to that why.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you very much, Ashley. And just the same question to all of you now then. John, let's start with you. So what's the one thing that could accelerate progress most in the next sort of 1 to 2 years, and who needs to act on it?
Okay. Yeah, there are a number of different areas. One, I could say the government. The government have just introduced a lot of grants, so increased grants for heavy goods vehicles, and that's great. And you know, it's helped bring the whole life cost of an electric tractor unit down to parity with diesel in 4 years. With our electricity, it's 3 years. So that's great. The only thing is, when you compare it, some people will compare the UK market to Germany because they're the top 2 commercial vehicle markets in Europe. We're about, about 500-600 vehicles behind them in vehicle park. They're giving their fleets 85% as a grant of the difference between diesel and electric. That's why they're miles ahead of us. No other reason. They're just better set up. Their governments are supporting it. Ours throw platitudes at us and talk about how they'd like us to be net zero by 2030 for cars, 2035 for trucks. But unless they're going to put their money where their mouth is, it falls back on the private sector to do it. And unless someone comes along with an innovation like us, and there'll be other people that come along with other innovations, it's not going to happen. The trucks account for about, was it 1 or 2% of the electric trucks of the total truck market? It's not enough. There's only 1,200 electric vehicles in heavy goods trucks, 26 ton and above. 1,200 vehicles out of 500,000. Come on, they got to throw more support behind it. The OEMs have got to bring down their prices and make it more affordable. And then innovations like ours and these guys, he's going to bring down his funding cost. She's got to do more competitive pricing on her installations and we've all got to be more efficient, but the main one is government.
Thank you very much, John. Anne?
I think this room can do something as well. I think express your intent. It doesn't mean you have to do something specific by a certain time, but the group of investors that we've not talked about are people that are investing in scaling up existing businesses to bring down their operational costs, the people that are looking and waiting to invest into shared infrastructure for fleet. And some of our customers are large investors, and they are waiting to deploy finance to build hubs in locations that they believe you are going to need. But for them to take that first step, there's no doubt in their mind they are going to do that in the next 1, 3, 5 years. But to give them the confidence to say, start, they need to know that you intend to electrify your fleet or to convert part of your fleet to hydrogen. And so I guess that's part of the ask of the fleet operators in the room and the local authorities and the buyers in the room. Yes, we intend to do it. We need you to help us understand how to go about it, but have the confidence that if you continue to invest in the businesses to deliver this, we're going to be coming at you with opportunities for you to compete and become more commercially competitive.
Can I just say something on the hub thing? Mylance, which is an association between the 5 or 6 major truck OEMs, has been built at a cost of £26 million in Immingham. There's 1,200 trucks in the UK. That is so far ahead of its time, it's ridiculous. So what we've looked at that and said, that's not for us, truck hubs, not now, maybe in 5 years when there's enough vehicle park. What we've done is concentrated on electric taxis. Every city centre in the UK is mandated to have electric or hybrid vehicles, so they all need charging. We've partnered up with the biggest taxi operator in the UK, and we're opening up hubs all over the UK that are guaranteed 100 electric taxis per day. That's how to scale. We're now rolling that out across one major OEM car manufacturer, 166 dealerships, because car dealers, unlike truck dealers, have big forecourts that you can set up a charging station on. Truck dealers don't. You can't swing a cat round in them. I'm sure John from Motus will tell us they have 475, oh, he doesn't, another competitor of his has 475 truck movements in and out of another DAF dealer per day. How are they going to charge trucks in somewhere like that? It's too cramped. Car dealers, they can do cars all day long and accessible vehicles and everything else. So that is the hub future for the next 5 years.
And I know there's one on the Wirral, isn't there? The taxi.
There is, yeah.
I'll have to come and see it. I'll just live down the road.
You will.
Ashley, that question for you.
I'll follow that. So don't disagree with the government bit. I think the stability bit is crucial throughout because I think it sends a constant messaging to the market, to the consumers that are effectively investing in this. Collaboration has been mentioned a few times today. I think in the past, Lorna may disagree. I think operating fleet or operating vehicles, you could kind of get away with just doing it on your own. You didn't necessarily need to talk to too many people. When you're transitioning to zero, you need to kind of be more receptive to listening to others. Sometimes your own voice is not the greatest one, as my wife will frequently tell me. And I think when it comes to this transition, that's something that's really, really important. So, you know, my advice, and I've said it recently to an industrial placement who started with us yesterday, there is no such thing as a stupid question, just the stupid answer that typically will come from me. So don't be afraid to ask the question. And I think, you know, the example, Lorna, apologies, keep picking on you. People have gone through this pain. You know, we've got 250,000 BEVs that we finance as a business. Trust me, we've been through the pain and probably still going through it. So there are lessons that we've learned, there's lessons that our customers have learned around how you transition, and probably some of the things you should do, and possibly some of the things that you should avoid. That's not necessarily going to dictate how you should do it, but probably give you some side points. But I think collaboration for me would be key.
Brilliant. Thank you, Ashley. Thank you, John. Thank you, Anne. It's now time for Q&A. However, if I may, because whilst I was listening to Lorna, it struck me that because we're all going to be heading off and there's no networking break, so Lorna, I think you know what I'm going to ask you. Would you mind joining us so people have the opportunity to ask questions of you as well? So again, as before, a roving mic will come round. Please state your name, your organisation, and keep the question brief. So questions, please, for our speakers. Tim.
Yeah, Tim from Optimal Energy again. This is a question for Lorna. Sorry.
Lorna.
You mentioned the challenges around particular vehicles like the 4x4s. What are the other main challenges right now to scale your electrification?
So I've done all the easy stuff. I genuinely have done all the easy stuff. I've got 4,500 cars, none of them are ICE. So I've done the easy bits. I do have a few hybrids just because of where those have to travel and what they need to do and some of the kit they carry. The stuff I've been trying to work on is if I cannot change the vehicle yet because it doesn't exist, can I change the stuff on the vehicle? And I know there was comments earlier about the refrigeration side of things, so it is. So some of my vans, I've put solar panels on the top. So I need to eke out the life of that 12-volt battery. We've got some good manufacturers out there and some not so good manufacturers out there. So I'm having to self-serve a lot of things. So it's how do I make my battery stuff on the vehicle more appropriate for the tools that I've got? Can I look at electric cranes instead of the EPT? So it's an EPTO, isn't it? It's the electric power takeoff instead. So it's looking at what else I can do with that vehicle if I cannot change it yet in order to try and achieve everything. And then in the background, I've spent 2 years working on a 4x4 design with someone, so there's lots of stuff I'm doing in the background to try and say, this is how I operate these vehicles, this is what we need. And I could have talked for a whole hour on all sorts of bits and pieces, so it's accepting that there are a whole bunch of stuff, they just don't exist. We're not going to get there yet. So can I look at portable batteries? How do I change the generators I use instead? Can I have a hydrogen solution or a battery solution for it? I know Zenobia are constantly knocking on my doors. There's all sorts of different things that you can look at instead, but as an operator, get the easy stuff done first, learn those lessons. I always have the phrase, necessity is the mother of invention. If it's not out there yet, somebody will come up with it for us.
Thank you. And I think just to expand on that, typically what you tend to find is where there's the big problem, some people will fixate on the big problem and go, that's it, I can't do it. That's not reality. There is always, there is always low-hanging fruit that you can go after. Go after it and start it. And once you start that transition, then you kind of grow and evolve.
I was going to say, you wonder why you didn't start earlier.
Brilliant, thank you. Another question? Towards the back.
Hi all, my name is Yash, I'm from NatWest. I had a question for Ashley. So, do you think we'll start viewing charging infra as a standalone asset class similar to renewable infra that we have, and thereby attracting more investors rather than solely having fleet operators run these charging stations?
Loaded question, bank to bank. So my view, and I kind of referred to it earlier when we kind of sat on our table, I think you have to kind of link the stuff together. I think one of the problems that you see with the UK charging infrastructure at the moment with some of the public providers, they only make money when it's being utilised. And at the moment, that's difficult because they're not able to guarantee that footfall. So there's almost a chicken and egg scenario. But I do think you'll start to see that, and you're seeing some providers in the UK already changing their pricing structures. And I think it will be interesting whether we end up with as many in the UK as we've got today. I also think we'll see consumer attitude towards that change. But again, I think at the moment it's been a consumer-led transition in terms of, well, I've put the infrastructure here. Do you want to come and use it at 90p a kilowatt hour? Just how much interest did you gauge before you decided that was where you should put it? And I think, to your point, John, about the taxi piece, I think that's really innovative in terms of, well, actually, I know I've got this catchment area where people are going to guarantee of coming in and using it. So I think you'll see that come in a lot more as well.
And the taxi hubs are charging 38 pence a kilowatt hour, not 90. And they're generally located right next to InstaVolts and grid serves who are charging 90. So we'll see who's going to win that battle.
Wow, amazing. I'm so sorry. We really do need to close the session now. But thank you so much, Ashley. Thank you, John. Thank you so much, Anne. Thank you again, Lorna. Thanks so much. Brilliant speakers.